everybody, Tori here with Disc Golf Central. We've got a disc review video for you today. We're pretty excited about this one because we've gotten a stack of Discmania discs from Disc Baron in Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you've never heard of Disc Baron, discbaron.com is a great resource to go and pick yourself up some discs. The guy who runs this name's Jake. He's super awesome at what he does. He takes great care of his customers, and he's been kind enough to hook us up with a stack of Discmania. So over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see us review some Discmania discs and bring those reviews to you, comparing them to other discs that we throw. So check out Disc Baron, discbaron.com. Follow him on Facebook, Instagram, all those places. Give him your business because he's a really great guy and he takes care of all of his customers. He specifically weighs every disc. You can pick your exact disc. Shipping is really fast. So check out Disc Baron. Give Jake your business because he's really awesome. Thank you very much, Disc Baron, for hooking us up for these couple of videos we got coming up here. So today, I want to talk about the Discmania FD. Now, this is the first Discmania disc I've ever thrown that's a fairway driver. I've thrown a couple. I've thrown the C-Line PD before. Actually, Colton Montgomery, when we had Colton and Kona on the show, he hooked us up with a PD. But this is the first fairway driver of Discmanias that I've ever thrown, and it's their kind of their staple. Their nice, straight to stable fairway driver. This one for me, when I first threw it, I was really impressed, and you're going to see a couple of shots here rolled in over the course of this video, comparing it to these 4 discs that I bagged. So the first of which is this Big Z Mantis. This Big Z Mantis is 174 grams, so it's pretty heavy. It's that Z plastic. I got this one because this Big Z Mantis that I have was getting a little bit flippy on me, and you'll be able to see kind of the difference in flight between these 2 discs on the first versus the second video. Then I have this old Z Talon with the Bell's Brewery stamp there. This is very beat up, as you can kind of see. It's really, really old. It's that 4-point shaky Z plastic from kind of the mid 2000s or early 2000s. And this one for me, the reason I like this disc is because really hard on a slight hyzer flip, it does the late turn. So holes that I can't really access because I don't have a very good forehand, it's really great for those shots because I can put it on a hyzer flip with a lot of snap and a lot of power, and it's going to kind of slowly pop up, and then that beat-inness of it is going to start to take over, and it's going to give me that late flip with a little bit of hookup at the end. And this disc is really most similar to how this one flies right out of the box. Now, full disclosure, this is a lighter weight FD. It's 168 grams, as is weighed by Disc Baron there at the store. So it's a little bit lighter. I'm not really sure how it would handle a headwind, but these couple of throws that I've gotten in with it so far, it performs very much like this late flip kind of shot that I really like this disc for, but the FD goes a lot farther. You can see when compared to this Mantis, get it lined up here, the Mantis has a much higher dome to it. The FD is very much a flatter disc, which is surprising considering how much glide you can get out of this FD. Previously to throwing this, the Mantis was the farthest flying disc in my bag, with the exception of maybe my crank. If I really get on my crank and I throw it well and I don't get it too nose up, it'll hold a nice straight line for a really long time and not really waver off of it and go about 380 feet. This, for me, without much effort, without really doing anything in terms of like hyzer angle, maybe a slight hyzer out of my hand, this would go about 370, 375 for me without much effort. This, considering that it doesn't have as much of a dome, it feels a little more comfortable in the hand. It feels easier to really get a full grip on. One of the reasons I had hesitation to go to the Mantis over the old XL, which I have there's another video on the channel comparing the XL to the Mantis, the Undertaker, and the Vulture. If you want to check that out, we'll put a link in the description. But one of the reasons I was hesitant to make the switch over to the Mantis, even though it's a newer, more advanced model and design than the old XL for a very similar shot, was it does have a big dome, especially the way that the dome feels on this Big Z. You can kind of see here, if I can line these up, the dome on the Big Z is even a little bit more pronounced than on the regular Z. And so when I first held a Mantis, that high dome really felt like I couldn't get my hand all the way up on the top of it. And I kind of countered that by using that hyzer flip grip that I talked about in a video before, where you move your thumb more to the inside of the flight plate, more towards the center, and that helps me get it out on that hyzer angle so I can throw straighter shots, especially with this Big Z now that's a little bit more flippy. I need to do that. I need to have it on that hyzer angle. But that's how I throw the Mantis. The FD I can throw flat with a very comfortable thumb position. I feel like I can get my entire hand on top of the disc and really feel like I can press that thumb down to make sure that nose angle stays down, and I can throw it really easily. I don't have to put a lot of snap and power behind it. And what it does for me is it kind of goes out nice and straight and kind of elevates a little bit. It's not even really a hyzer flip, it just kind of naturally elevates a little bit with that slight thumb pressure hyzer angle that I put on most of my discs. It elevates, and then it just kind of does a nice gradual turn to the right before finally hooking up. So it's very straight flying, very easy to control. When you do put a good amount of hyzer on it, it flips up to flat and kind of rides that hyzer just a little bit. A lot better than the Mantis. The Mantis has a tendency to turn a little earlier in the flight, so when you really get on it, and if the wind conditions aren't exactly correct, it has a tendency to kind of turn and eat into the ground, and it really eats up all your distance. There's one shot that I'll roll in here where you can definitely see the difference between the Big Z Mantis, that Talon that I have, where both of those kind of just turn over and burn out really quick. The other disc that I was throwing in relation to this FD is this Legacy Rival. If you know anything about the Legacy Rival, it's built on the mold of the 11-time KC Teebirds. So it's an older model of disc. And one of the things that I found really interesting between some of these newer, more recent releases of fairway drivers versus the older fairway control drivers like the Eagle, the Teebird, things that people have thrown for years, is that there's definitely a difference just by looking in the speed of the disc. So you can see based on the rim size, the rim width alone, that this FD is a much faster disc than the Teebird. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna go further as a general rule, but just the design of fairway drivers has come so far in the last decade or so that you're really able to get that same kind of control out of a faster disc that does have more distance potential when you learn how to throw it properly. One other thing that you'll notice from this FD versus the Rival is the FD has a much shallower transition on the bottom side of this wing here. You can see, as is the case with most fairway drivers like this Rival or a Teebird, there's that scoop, that very pronounced scooped underside of the rim that when you extend that out to a wider rim driver makes for very overstable drivers. This FD has a very flat, neutral angle to it until the very end here. If you can see that at the very end, maybe I'll roll in some pictures of these on a desk so you can see it a little bit better. That end, it just barely lips down, and that tiny little bit of lip, in my opinion, I don't really know anything about disc design, but that's what helps it to hook up at the very end. As I was saying, you get a lot of glide out of this. It pans to the right really late in the flight, but it still always does hook up, even at this light weight, which is really something that's beneficial. I think that helps it to be able to, on a harder hyzer, maybe a little bit of 80% power, it holds a nice, long, glidey hyzer for the full flight. In order to get that kind of shot with this Teebird or Rival here, I have to put my thumb way to the outside, pinch hard, and throw it really hard and flat and get that anhyzer angle out of my hand for it to hold a much longer turn to the left and finish overall straight. If I put a neutral shot on it, it's just gonna go straight with a hookup. That's what a Teebird does, or a Rival does. If I put a lot of hyzer on it, it's gonna stand up for me, or maybe just not quite stand up and then hyzer out. So this disc, this FD, to me is a much more versatile all-around kind of fairway driver. I'd like to get my hands on a heavier one to be able to see how it compares to this. I think the heavier ones are going to be even straighter in overall flight. They're going to probably stand up, give a little less left to right action, and then a little bit more fade at the end, as opposed to what this one does is flip up, go straight, lots of turn, well, not lots, but you know, a good 15 to 20 feet in the air of left to right action, and then a following, you know, a fade that penetrates forward. But this FD, as you'll see in that video, I threw it relatively flat, straight at the pin, or maybe even a little bit to the left of the pin, and it just rode that angle nice and slow, kind of got even with the basket, and then faded just a little bit. And actually was one of the, other than the Mantis and the Talon didn't even get to that kind of second corner, but this one and the Rival were the only one that actually made it all the way there. And this one was that perfect shot shape, right up to the basket, right to that second corner, and then it kind of skipped off into a little opening for a nice easy two-putt, or a nice easy putt for two. I did not two-putt it, thankfully. But the FD, I would really highly recommend to just about anybody. It's an easy to throw disc for a lot of distance, for somebody who's maybe wanting to take that first step away from a beginner disc to something that they're gonna be able to throw really, really well. And it's obviously a really workable disc for pros too, or else pros like people that throw Discmania wouldn't put their stamp on it. There's Tour Series FDs out there that you can get. Not super familiar with Discmania, that's why I'm looking forward to doing this run of reviews here to kind of familiarize myself with their molds and give you the perspective of somebody who's not a Discmania thrower, but definitely is open to putting Discmania in my bag, especially after throwing this disc. So I'm gonna roll in a couple more throws with the FD here on camera so you can kind of see it in comparison to some of the other discs that I have. But thank you so much for watching. Again, thank you to Disc Baron for hooking us up with these Discmania discs. Be looking out for some more Discmania reviews coming from us here at Disc Golf Central in the near future. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button and follow us on Instagram at discgolfcentral_. See you guys later.